Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week with superb entrepreneurs who have built their business up from scratch, here to help give you hints, tips, tricks on how you can do the same. Delighted to be joined this week by Bryan Clayton of GreenPal. Bryan, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Genuine pleasure. Really excited to learn more about your business, GreenPal. But I wondered, first of all, if you could just tell the listeners how you first started out with this business.
Yeah, so CEO and co-founder of GreenPal, which is kind of like the Uber, but for lawn mowing. So if you're a homeowner, you need to get your grass cut, rather than calling around, leaving voicemails all over the place, you can just download our app, push a button, and somebody will come out and mow your yard for you. Been at this business for 9 years. I guess you could say we're a 9-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been working on building the marketplace in the United States, and now we're nationwide in every city in the United States, and several 100,000 people use the app to get their grass cut, doing multiple 8 figures a year in revenue, and started off very humbly. The first few years were really tough. We spent all of our time just in one city, Nashville, Tennessee, where we live, figuring out how to get the marketplace going and how to get it so satisfied both sides of the transaction. And once we figured it out, we started moving quickly, expanding it to other cities. So that's how we started GreenPal, and we stuck with it. And before that, I actually had a landscaping company. I started mowing yards in high school as a way to make extra cash, and stuck with this little lawn mowing business over a 15-year period of time. Ended up building that lawn mowing business to one of the largest in the state of Tennessee, where I live, ultimately getting it over 10 million a year in revenue. And in 2013, so it's 20 years, never had a job, always owned my own businesses. One industry, you've kind of seen it from every angle you can see it from.
Yeah, superb. And one of the challenges you obviously have experienced is this: when you're building a marketplace, it's getting the supply side and demand side to kind of meet up.
Absolutely.
Very smart to kind of start within one particular location. How did you solve that particular challenge for your market?
Yeah, so when you're building a multi-sided marketplace, most of the time, the side that is spending is the harder, more challenging side to attract to the marketplace. And so that's
which side was that? We just lost your audio there.
Yeah. So the side that's spending money on the marketplace is usually the harder side to attract. So usually, the buyer side or the consumer side is usually the tougher. And for us, that's homeowners that use the platform. That's always where we're kind of constrained. We're constrained on consumer side. And so when we first started building the marketplace in Nashville, we focused just on getting as many homeowners as we could to use it, and then kind of hand cranking the supplier side by way of just calling vendors and pitching them on the idea to use GreenPal to pick up extra work. And once we had about 20 or 30 of those, we then kind of like stayed put for a while, and then just focused on how do we get consumers onto the platform in a scalable way. And took several years, took 3 years to figure that out. We started off by passing out door hangers, by passing out flyers all over Nashville, Tennessee, to try to get consumers onto the platform. So then we could figure out, okay, how the heck do we make this marketplace work? So it was very much a hand cranking exercise in the early days. And then as time went on, we began to figure out, okay, this is how we can scale certain pieces of it.
Okay, superb. And listeners, such great guidance there for those who are operating, building any kind of marketplace. Do you think about sort of business models? Obviously, you've got the kind of charging the consumer, presumably taking a percentage and then passing the deal on. Has there been a kind of thought process around other ways of, like, having subscriptions to the site for the suppliers and things like that? Has that evolved over time, or you've stuck with one all the way through?
Great question. So for us, we have a really simple business model. We take a transactional fee for all the activity that occurs on the platform, and we focus on just that one simple way to make money and just double down on that. Now, downstream, there's all kinds of interesting things we can do to monetize the activity that's occurring on the platform without taking value out of the activity that's occurring on it. So things like fintech enabled services, like for especially for service providers, it's, hey, you made $48,000 last year, you grew your business 20%, you qualify for 0% financing on a new truck. Or things like for on the homeowner side, it's like, hey, you have hired a lawn mowing service for weekly services. Would you like to add on Scott's fertilizing services or Miracle Grow's fertilizing products delivered to your doorstep at a touch of a button. So there's all kinds of interesting things we can do now that we've got critical mass with the activity occurring on the platform. The idea is you want to add value before you ask anything. So, and you want to be able to monetize activity without extracting value out of it. And so that's kind of how we're focused on it.
Yeah, but building sort of win-wins all around where everybody's seeing an incremental additional value rather than
that's right
feeling that it's been scooped out. Yeah, I think that's amazing. Some of the businesses that we see over here on a sort of subscription level as well, I guess you've kind of been around as well. If grass always grows, right?
Yeah. It inherently is inclined to be a subscription service because once you get hooked up with a good lawn mowing service, you didn't push a button and they come out and mow for the rest of the season. So in effect, it becomes a subscription service. Eventually, we will have some premium tools that service providers can subscribe to. You don't see a whole lot of examples of really good marketplaces that make money off of transactions and charging a subscription. It's really hard to do. And so some examples of where it's worked, Amazon with Amazon Prime is an amazing example. And you see a lot of other companies trying to follow suit. In the United States, we have a company called Instacart that does delivery for groceries. They have like an Instacart service. So we're going to be experimenting around things like that as well.
Love it. So good. And you're absolutely right. Well, once you've got that baseline, but once you've cracked it, then you get to kind of have some fun with the experimental side. So
that's
congratulations on getting to that point. Amazing. And you said kind of from your start point that you'd not been working for anybody else. That was never a route that you'd gone down. Have you always felt that kind of entrepreneurial drive? Has that always been in you, or was it something that you kind of fell into accidentally?
Yeah, I really kind of fell into it accidentally, was forced into it actually by my father. He made me go mow my first yard. He said, get off your butt. I got a gig lined up for you. You're going to go mow the neighbor's grass. I didn't want to. He interrupted me, very rudely interrupted me playing Super Mario Kart and made me go mow the neighbor's yard. Luckily he did, because after I got done, I made $20 for an hour's work, and I thought, this is incredible. I don't have to ask my parents for money anymore. And so never looked back. I mean, the first thing I did is I made a bunch of flyers up on my computer and passed them around the neighborhood. I had like 20 customers that first summer. So never had a job. I've always worked for myself. It's probably good it worked out that way for me, because I'm not particularly brilliant or talented in any sort of things. I just work really hard. And if you're wired that way and you work really hard in your thing, you can make something.
Yeah, sure. And Mario Kart presumably has taken a real tanking. You're no good anymore.
Yeah, well, it's like I think my superpower is consistency and this diligence and perseverance, and no one brilliant move has won the game on the chessboard for me. It's just been like a bunch of little things over time, just compounding over a long period of time.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And so that's great. As far as your business is concerned, clearly it's something that's really strong. I wonder about the kind of influences that you've had. You've mentioned your father. Is there somebody that's kind of like an inspiration for you, somebody you kind of look up to and think, well, do you know what, or people, or just kind of ideas that you've taken in that have come from people?
Yeah, that's definitely been dynamic for me over the years. When I was mowing grass and I had a landscaping company, I was lucky because I had a lot of wealthy clientele. And I remember one thing I picked up on very early on at like age 20 was that, I was the private gardening service for a lot of these successful people in my community. And I noticed that they were no smarter than I was. Like they didn't do anything that wasn't mysterious. And I thought to myself, man, I could live in this same neighborhood that I'm providing these services in. And I made a goal for myself. By 30 years old, I was going to move into the same neighborhood that I was working in at 20. And I was able to do that. Now that was a fun goal. And I was exposed to successful people by way of my business because I was serving them, and I was able to learn from them just by observing them. In terms of mentors, I've never had like personal mentors that have just like sherped me to success. But what I have had, particularly in my second business, GreenPal, is a lot of asynchronous mentorship. And by that, what I mean is like really successful people who have done amazing, extraordinary things, who I have no access to, but yet they have put out a ton of content, whether it be on YouTube or just, blogs or podcasts or maybe conferences they've spoken at, and I can watch the fireside chat on YouTube. I've learned a ton, particularly in the last decade, and been mentored by a dozen or two different really successful people who don't know who I am, but guys like Travis Kalanick and Brian Chesky and even guys like degree Elon Musk and the way he thinks and how these guys think and the stuff that they put out there and just learning from their mentalities. I don't have access to these people, but I can still learn from them and be mentored by them.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And there is so much out there, isn't there? If you just if you can curate it down to a few that you really like, then
you said it. Yeah. Half the battle is going like starting from scratch and just starting at YouTube University, and then over like maybe 6 months or even a year, curating it down to, okay, these are the dozen folks that are practitioners of the things that I'm trying to do. And they're literally like they're opening the kimono and showing their chops and showing what they do. And you can learn it, and you can learn it in most cases for free. What a great time to be alive and try to be in business.
It's just the best time, isn't it? And I often
really
say to people I meet there has never been a better time with the tools you've got available, with all the technology that's around to just learn and build and grow your business. And kind of on that note, is there a bit of one piece of advice that you've received over time that kind of really resonates?
Yeah, a lot of good advice. The main piece of advice that I have learned from is in a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And one thing I really love about that book, I try to read it once a year, is not confusing or conflating urgency with importance. And so a lot of times, our days are dominated by things that are urgent, but they're not important. And so we just kind of spin our wheels on like fake work, and we focus on things that don't really matter because we're dominated in kind of this quadrant of things that are urgent, like they're burning the house down, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not important. And so really what we need to do is try to we got to deal with that stuff, but we don't really want to move into the quadrant of things that are important, but aren't necessarily urgent. So things like strategy, culture, value proposition, what differentiates you in the marketplace, what 5 years looks like from now, these like things that aren't necessarily burning the house down today, but you really need to be spending time on them. If we can move out of that quadrant and into the quadrant of important but not urgent, that's one thing that's really resonated with me. And I've spent years in the quadrant of important of urgent but not important. And it really, you can get burnout and you can not get anywhere doing that.
I think that's such great advice, and that is a great book as well that you just mentioned. The 7 Habits. It's legendary. If you haven't read it, listeners, you've got it. You've got to find it, listen to it, whatever you do.
It's one of those books you need to revisit every 2 years or every year, because every time I read it, it takes on a different meaning, because you learn and you grow, and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know things, and it just takes on a different almost utility every time I pick it up. So awesome book, timeless. It's really table stakes.
Brilliant. If you were to look back to when you set up your business right at the outset, what do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
If I could go back in time, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and give myself a 3x5 disc or a CD or a thumb drive or, whatever the modality of transferring data would have been. A lot of the denominators would be learning the power of delegation and really, really trying to delegate as quick as you can, but no sooner. So a lot of times, we get in a delegation mindset and we delegate too soon, and we delegate things that we have no idea how to do, or we don't have any acumen around, or we don't know the 80-20 basics of whatever that thing is. Could be software development, could be bookkeeping, could be accounting, could be legal, and we delegate too soon, and then that's a disaster. And I've done that. And then we hold on to stuff way too long, and we do it ourselves. Because quite frankly, that's the lazy decision. As crazy as that sounds, it's harder work to delegate it than it is to do it yourself. And so then we do it too long, and then we don't get the compounding effect of delegation. And so I guess if I could really try to, tell myself one thing, is delegation and the power of it. No sooner than necessary, but as soon as you can do it.
And there's a sweet spot, isn't there, where absolutely you've learned enough that you know it works, because often, like you say, you can delegate down things that just don't work or are never going to work, right? You just go, well, you sort it out and try and make it work.
The 80-20 principle, 20% of the 80% of the value comes from 20% of the knowledge. And it's like you delegate the thing where it could be bookkeeping. And it's like, rather than saying, I hate bookkeeping, I don't know how to do it, you handle it. That's a recipe for disaster. What you want to say is, hey, here's how we do our bookkeeping here. Here's the process. Here's what we expect. Here's how long it should take. Here's how long it should cost. Here's what I want it back by. I need you to handle it. Like delegation from a position of stewardship is how you want to approach it.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice, and thank you. I wonder as well, what's sort of next for you? How are you looking to develop? You've mentioned sort of a few kind of different ideas around business model and locations and so on. What's the big kind of project you're working on?
Yeah, so GreenPal is my like life's energy goes into getting this business growing 20, 30, 40, 50% a year. You know, that's really what my life's force goes into, you know, and I think I read somewhere is like, you know, you only got to be right once, and if you fail 2 or 3 times, you just keep going and learn from the previous failures and roll them into this next thing, and over a decade you'll have something. And for me, I'm not terribly creative. I had one good idea. I spent 15 years in the lawn business, and I saw one good idea. If I applied technology to it, I could build something. So I didn't want to screw that up. So I took a different approach. And it was like, this is really your one shot. Right. So go sustainably, go slow and low. And that's how I approached it. And over the time, I've learned that, you know, there's three phases of business. There's the startup, the grow up, and the scale up. And the startup is like just an idea and you're trying to get something going. And then the grow up is like maybe $1 million in revenue to 5 or 10. And then the scale up is like closing in on 100 million in revenue. And I've learned that I'm pretty good at the first two. I'm good at startup and the grow up. I don't have a whole lot of experience in the scale up. I don't have a lot of appetite for that. And so I'm going to keep doing business as long as I'm having fun and as long as I'm good at it. And the minute I'm not having fun and I start to suck at it, I'm either going to sell the company or put a professional CEO in. And so that's what the future looks like for me. I don't have a lot of good ideas. This is my one good idea. It's kind of my life's work, and I'm just going to keep going down, you know, doubling down on it.
Brilliant. Listen, I love that. I love that the whole kind of idea of just really making that area your own and just kind of really punching through, because other people won't commit the time and won't commit the energy that you clearly have. And I guess that once you've decided to put that away, you go back to practicing Mario Kart. Is that right?
I'll say it again. I'm sorry. One more time.
Do you go back to practicing Mario Kart?
You know, maybe I should. Yeah, I still love that game. It's kind of funny. When I was 22 years old, I decided, okay, no more video game consoles in the house, so I'm not getting anything done. So I haven't really played a video game in over 20 years because I have no self-control. But maybe sell this business for a couple $100 million, and I'll go back to Nintendo 64 Mario Kart.
The size of that screen is going to be amazing. Right,
I love it.
Brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much. Listen, how can people get in touch with you if they need to?
Yeah, so anybody, you know, listening to this in the States doesn't want to mow your own grass, just download GreenPal in the App Store or Play Store. Anybody who wants to reach out to me, I spend most of my time on Instagram. Just hit me up, Bryan M. Clayton. Shoot me a follow in a DM, and I'll get back to you there.
Perfect. Bryan, it's been great to chat. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time. That's it for this week's Growth Execution Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bryan, all the very best for the business, greenpal.com.
That's right. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I enjoyed it.
Genuine pleasure. All right, listen, we'll be back next week with another great entrepreneur talking about their business, how they can help you with their ideas to build, grow, and exit your business. Thank you very much indeed for listening in, and we'll catch up with you again next week.